Everything was going perfectly. The late-night conversations felt impossibly deep, and you finally thought you found the one. Then, practically overnight, they vanished behind a brick wall. They didn't ghost you. They did something much more agonizing. They stayed, but turned completely cold. You probably blamed yourself, frantically rereading old text messages to find the exact moment you ruined it. But here is the brutal psychological truth. The moment they pulled away had absolutely nothing to do with what you said. You unknowingly crossed a hidden psychological tripwire. To an emotionally unavailable person, that sudden closeness didn't feel like love. It triggered an ancient survival mechanism that processed your affection as an active threat. There is a specific childhood blueprint driving this sudden switch, and until you understand exactly what happens in their brain, the second intimacy peaks. You will never realize why the people who seem to want you the most are the ones who push you the farthest away. To understand this, we first have to look at what you are likely doing right now. When someone you care about suddenly builds a fortress around themselves, your natural instinct is to try and scale the walls. You become the ultimate relationship detective. You soften your tone, you ask if they are stressed with work, you tiptoe around their moods, and you pour even more affection into the gap they left behind, hoping to reassure them that you are a safe place. You think, if I just love them hard enough, if I'm just patient enough, they will finally realize they can trust me. But day by day, the emotional starvation sets in. You're trapped in a cycle of crumbs. They throw you a brief warm text and you feel a rush of hope, only for them to go completely sterile the very next morning. It slowly destroys your self-esteem because you inevitably internalize their emotional distance as a direct reflection of your own worth. You tell yourself that if you were just a little better, less demanding, or more accommodating, they would stay open. This is where the dynamic gets incredibly dangerous, and it is exactly why so many people waste years of their lives stuck in dating purgatory. You are treating their emotional walls like a temporary mood or a phase that can be cured with your unconditional support. But you are fighting a biological ghost. Their emotional unavailability is not a conscious, calculated choice to hurt you. It is a deeply embedded survival strategy hardwired into their nervous system, likely decades before they ever even knew your name. And this leads us to the most counterintuitive psychological truth about the avoidant attachment style. You have been conditioned by society and dating advice to believe that when someone backs away, it is the ultimate sign that they are losing interest. But what if you have it completely backward? What if their sudden coldness isn't proof that they don't care about you, but the absolute biological confirmation that they are terrified of how much they actually do? To an emotionally unavailable person, intimacy is a literal threat. When you show them pure, unconditional love, their brain doesn't release oxytocin and feel-good chemicals like yours does. Instead, their amygdala, the brain's internal alarm system, fires off cortisol. They're experiencing a biological fight-or-flight response to your affection. But why does the human nervous system mistake love for an apex predator? It goes all the way back to their earliest childhood blueprint. Somewhere in their past, vulnerability was fundamentally unsafe. Maybe their caregivers were dismissive, highly critical, or completely emotionally unpredictable. To survive that environment as a helpless kid, they had to learn a devastating lesson. Depending on someone else leads to pain. So they severed the connection to their own needs. They became fiercely, aggressively independent. But that independence isn't a superpower, it's a scar. And that scar dictates exactly how they are testing you right now. When things get too serious, that childhood alarm bell starts ringing deafeningly loud. Their subconscious whispers, they are getting too close. They're going to see the real you, and then they're going to abandon you. To stop that from happening, they execute a preemptive strike. They start manufacturing flaws. Suddenly the way you text is too demanding. Your need to see them is suffocating. They magnify tiny, irrelevant incompatibilities to justify putting physical and emotional distance between you. They aren't consciously trying to break your heart. They are frantically trying to armor their own. But here is the twisted, tragic irony of their defense mechanism. By pushing you away to avoid abandonment, they actively guarantee it. They drain your emotional reserves until you finally walk away, exhausted and broken. And the exact second you leave, the pressure is off. The threat of intimacy vanishes. Suddenly their anxiety drops to zero, and they remember all the amazing things about you. They might even reach back out, offering just enough warmth to completely reset the trap. It is a vicious, endless loop. But knowing their psychology isn't enough to save the relationship. In fact, understanding their trauma is exactly what might be destroying you. You start using their past as an excuse for their present behavior. You become their unpaid therapist instead of their romantic partner. You tolerate the ice-cold shutdowns because you see the wounded inner child hiding underneath the armor. But empathy without boundaries is just self-destruction. You cannot love someone into being emotionally available. Their nervous system has to be rewired, and you cannot do that work for them. So, the ultimate question isn't how to fix their avoidant attachment. It is why your own psychology is keeping you deeply addicted to a person who refuses to be caught. You're addicted to the dynamic because on a subconscious level, their emotional distance feels incredibly familiar. If you have to bleed to prove your worth, if you have to fight for just a fraction of their attention, it validates a deeply held, silent belief of your own. That love is a prize you must exhaust yourself to earn. When they finally drop their guard and give you a microscopic crumb of affection, your brain floods with dopamine. That massive chemical rush masks the underlying anxiety, tricking you into believing you have finally broken through their walls. But you haven't found a breakthrough. You have found a trauma bond. You're mistaking the relief of their temporary warmth for actual intimacy. Just as their childhood blueprint taught them to run from connection, your blueprint might have taught you to chase it. You're subconsciously trying to heal an old wound, desperately attempting to get an emotionally unavailable figure from your past to finally choose you by projecting them onto the partner standing right in front of you. You believe that if you can just fix them, if you can be the one exception to their rule, you will finally prove that you are worthy of love. But here is the ultimate liberating truth that will shatter this cycle forever. You are not a rehabilitation center for broken people. Their past trauma may perfectly explain their coldness, but it absolutely does not excuse the emotional starvation they are subjecting you to. You cannot outlove, outpatience, or decode a biological survival mechanism that they refuse to heal themselves. True intimacy does not feel like an agonizing puzzle you have to solve in the dark. It does not require you to shrink your personality, swallow your valid needs, or constantly audition for a place in someone's life. Real, secure love is a safe harbor, not a relentless psychological battleground. The moment you stop pouring your incredible capacity for love into a bottomless void and start redirecting that fierce devotion back into yourself, the illusion completely shatters. Letting them go is not a failure of your endurance. It is the ultimate reclamation of your self-worth. It is the exact moment you step off the battlefield, stop chasing ghosts, and finally leave the door open for someone who actually has the courage to stay. But stepping off that battlefield is only the first phase of your healing. Once you walk away from the chaotic dopamine highs of a trauma bond, your brain will inevitably go through withdrawals. You might even start to convince yourself that healthy, secure love is boring, simply because it isn't triggering your survival instincts. If you are truly ready to rewire your attachment blueprint so you stop self-sabotaging and finally attract the partner you actually deserve, you need to understand exactly what happens next. Click the video on your screen right now, where I break down exactly how to navigate the terrifying transition from toxic dynamics to secure intimacy. Hit subscribe to keep breaking these deeply rooted cycles with me, and I will see you in that next video.